Okay, so today we're going to be working on a Toshiba Satellite P55t. This is, the sticker is actually worn out on this model, but from the BIOS we got the serial number, and it's a Toshiba Satellite P55t-A. This one actually has a bad keyboard, and it also has a cracked screen down there in the corner. We're going to separate this out into two separate videos. We're going to do the top first, and then we're going to do the screen afterwards. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. We have the replacement part here. Of course, the part number is going to be in the description for this. You can see this one's actually pretty decent quality. Keyboard looks great. This is the backside here. And luckily, it looks like they gave us the power button is included, so I won't need to take that out. This will just plug in at the connector, and the touchpad and everything is included. This one actually doesn't look like it comes out. This one actually might come out, but they gave it to us anyway, so that's nice. So as with most of the laptops we work on, I've never worked on this specific laptop before, but like with any laptop, pretty much, the idea is that once you work on enough of them, you kind of have an idea of how to take them apart. So if you want to follow this video, if you have one of these at home and you're trying to repair it, you can follow this video and hopefully it'll help you out. So this laptop's a little bit interesting because we have screw covers, little rubber screw covers over top of some of the screws. This laptop has been used quite a bit, so you can see that some of them have actually fallen out or whatever, degraded over the years. But normally you would have screw covers on top of all of these. So there's a screw here, we have a screw here, 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 and here. So with these ones have lost their covers, but that's okay. If you have this laptop and you don't see the screw right away, it's probably underneath the cover. So we'll start by taking out the bottom screws. It's a good idea that if you have a little ice cube tray or a screw organizer to make sure you have all your screws organized, make sure you don't put wrong screw in the wrong hole. But we'll take out these rubber covers, so you can use any pry tool. I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver and just pop that out. And we'll do that for all of them. So another one there. And these are actually different shapes, so you'll see some of the ones on the corners are different. So for example, this one, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but this one has maybe I can focus in on that. I don't know how hard it is to see. This actually has a letter E on it, whereas the other ones have a letter A on them. So they are different. So just make sure that you keep that in mind when you take those little rubber covers out. And we'll keep going here. We got another one. And another one down here. Also an E. And now we can just start taking some of the screws out. Another cover over here. That's A. And then here, this one was different. This one was completely different. This one was it just has a number 17 on it. It's this long one, which is for the CD-ROM. Take that out. And let's see, a little more down here. Okay, so that being said, looks like it for the screws on here. Keep that out. Now the CD-ROM screw should be out, so we should be able to just take the CD-ROM out, or DVD-ROM if you will. Put that off to the side, and now we should be able to start taking the bottom cover off. So I'm going to check also underneath here the memory to make sure that that's not going to hold us up, and it looks like there's no screws under there, so we're okay. So the next thing we're going to want to do is use a pry tool. So we have guitar picks that we use here, and we're going to use that to pry the bottom. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use our guitar pick. We're going to insert it in between the black part of the laptop and the silver part, and you might need to open the laptop to be able to do this, but you should be able to get it to separate. You'll hear a few pops. This should separate the bottom cover from the top cover. See now, and that whole thing should just come right off just like that. So first thing we're going to want to do is to kind of inspect the laptop. This one you can see has a broken post right here, screw post, so just take any loose plastic or anything like that from inside the laptop out. Then we're going to want to remove the battery just to make sure that we don't accidentally short out any components or anything like that and damage the laptop. So got the battery unplugged. Naturally make sure that it's not plugged into the jack because that will still be providing voltage into the laptop, and like I said, you don't want to accidentally short anything out. So to replace the top, this is going to be a bit of a challenge because everything has to come out. We have to take everything from in here and transplant it into this new top. So really it doesn't matter where you start. I'm just going to start with the hard drive because it just seems like it would be the easiest to do. It is a serviceable component, so we have those two screws right there, and then we should be able to just lift the drive right out. I'll leave the screws with the hard drive so I know that they go to there. And now we're going to start unplugging some connectors. So it's also a good idea to take a photo of this if you have your phone with you. Just take a photo, make sure when you have everything done, you can cross-reference it to make sure you have everything plugged into the right spot. So we'll just start unplugging stuff. Again, doesn't really matter. For these flex connectors, you want to lift up these black tabs and then you should be able to pull these right out. Same right here, we have the backlight connector. This one right here, I'm not sure what it goes to. And then the next one looks like it's going to be speakers. Take that out just like that. We have the charging jack down here. Pull that out. This one, I'm not sure, probably camera or USB ports. And then we have the fan, which is actually, ironically, looks to be slightly melted. So I'm not sure what the customer did to this laptop, but the fan connector is actually melted. So I've not seen that before, but I'll leave that in for now. Good chance yours is not melted, so in most cases you're probably going to want to actually just take that out. But in this case I'm going to leave it in because it's melted. So. Either way, we're going to start taking some of the motherboard screws out. You can see that the motherboard screws have these little white arrows to indicate that a screw goes there. There are holes that do have posts in them, so you could screw into them, but they do not have the arrow, so you know that a screw doesn't belong there. Most likely that's for screws that go through the top and into the motherboard. So we'll start taking out some of the motherboard screws here. And I just see those two right now. Although to be fair, we did have that one from the display connector as well. Okay. So now I'll go ahead and take out the battery. So we have a few screws here. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And with that, we should be able to lift out the battery. Set that off to the side with the screws on it. Now the motherboard is sort of lifting out, but you can see it's a little bit hinged, and that's because we have the wireless card here. I'll just leave this with the antennas connected for now. And we'll have to take out the fan. So the fan has a few screws. The fan has a screw here and a screw here, which connects it to the metal hinge. So take those two out. Again, if you have a screw organizer, try to remember where those screws go. And now you can see I'm actually lifting up on the fan and the whole motherboard's starting to come out. So I'm going to kind of lever it towards that side and we should be able to just pull it out. We also have two connectors here that I neglected, so I'll take those two out. And we should be able to start pulling up. Now you'll see we do have a flex connector here and another one here that go underneath the board. So we're going to need to disconnect those from the board side. And now we should be able to just lift the motherboard out just like that. So with the motherboard out now, our job gets a little bit easier because that is a big portion of the area here. Depending on where you buy your top from, you may or may not be given the USB part, you may be given the speakers. In our case, we don't have the speakers, we don't have the USBs, but we do have the power button. So these two screws in with the fan, so leave those with that. Next, I'll take out this little board here, which is used for the side USBs. Again, this metal bracket's held to the hinge, so make sure that you take that out. And just like that. And now that board should come right out, so I'll just go ahead and do it now. I'll just put it into this, and I'll leave it there for now. Now we have the charging jack and the Ethernet jack. So ironically, the Ethernet jack is on is separate. I've never seen that. Usually it's soldered to the board, so that would explain one of those connectors there. I've never seen that before. Next, I guess I can disconnect the Wi-Fi antennas from the Wi-Fi card. Set that off to the side. Gonna want to unroute some of these cables. And take out the speakers. Usually speakers aren't held in with screws, they're held in with these vibration little plastic rubber pieces. So just keep that in mind. Looks like this one is actually kind of fallen out, so I'll have to fix that. There we go. Unroute those cables and lift this out just like that. This one also got stuck, so I need to fix that real quick. There we go. And okay. And now we can start taking the hinge screws out. So these are, there's 3 on this side and 2 on the other side. So I will take those out now. That. This is where it gets a little bit interesting because the hinges are now kind of in a closed position, but to get the top out, we have to lift the hinges up. So the best thing to do in this case would be to just try to open the laptop normally, and you should see the top will just separate from the screen, just like that. And now that everything's separated, we have the top, and we can get rid of the screen. And start transplanting everything over. So we have the new one here, so we'll just take a visual inspection, see what we have and we don't have. We don't have the charging jack, and we don't have the Ethernet, so we'll go ahead and take that out. I'll do the Ethernet first if I can, and just slide that in into the new top. And you should see that the cable, for the most part, should kind of route itself because the bends in the cable have remained the same and the top is the exact same. So it should kind of put itself back into place. But if it doesn't, like I said, refer to the picture that you took earlier of the top and just kind of make sure everything's going where it should. So next up, we will notice that we have pretty much everything that we need from the old top. So the old top we can kind of just discard at this point. Put that off to the side. And now we can attach the screen. So this is the new screen that we bought. Like I said, it needed a screen and a top, but if you were just replacing the top, naturally you'd use the exact same screen. So to do this, it's also a little bit tricky, and it'll be kind of hard to get it on camera, but pretty much just make sure that the hinges are at like a 90-degree angle, and you can just kind of lay it down in, and it will just lay in just like that. And then once you have that in, you can kind of shut the screen using pressure on the hinges, and you should be able to close the laptop fit the new screen. Just like that. And we'll want to put the hinge screws in now first, so that way the screen has some support on the top, so if we would need to open a laptop, it won't break out the hinges or plastic or anything like that. So again, these also have little triangles pointing to where the screws should go, so keep that in mind when you're screwing them in. This side had 2. Here and here. And then we had this little board that went on top. Just like that. And now I can screw that in. Okay, so with that all set, we can start reassembling stuff a little bit further. I will next probably do the speakers. Might make the most sense. These are, of course, attached together, so that is important. The actual speaker portion of it goes down, so we'll put these in just like that and try to maintain those little rubber vibration things. They can be a bit tricky, but they should just go right in. And then we have one goes here, and there, and of course the power jack goes above all this. It should go up here. And now this can sit in just like that. Okay, so to try to route some of those cables, make sure that they're in the right places. And this. Right, so now the motherboard can probably go back in. So I'll grab the board here. Now, some fan screws, get those out of the way. Now remember that when we disconnected this, we had this cable here and this cable here. Luckily, this board came with this cable already. Luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it. So in this case, I'll just disconnect the one. Actually, you know what? I'll leave it in. And then we'll just connect this one down here to the motherboard. I've seen it in the past where touchpads have been different, even though they're exact same top, and the cable, ironically, has made a difference in allowing the touchpad to work. Some of them are wired a bit different. So now we'll go ahead and reattach this cable. So we should be able to lever the motherboard back in, and just like how we took it out, we'll kind of get it on an angle because we want to make sure that the ports line up. And you'll kind of feel that the connectors will slide into the plastic where they're supposed to go. And then you can kind of lay the motherboard down. Now there's still a lot of cables. Some of them might be trapped underneath the motherboard, so just make sure that there's no cables being pinched or anything. Like you can see here, everything's pretty much went underneath the board, so we'll have to pull everything back out and make sure that everything is laying on top of the motherboard. Just like that. And with that being said, now we can start plugging stuff in. I'll start by doing the touchpad again. Reconnect that into the touchpad. So that should go in. A little bit funky. And now we can do some of these cables. Okay, push those down. And we'll do power jack. We will do what appears to be that connector there. And we will do, okay, so it appears that the speakers actually go on the other side, so I'll need to kind of lift the motherboard back out and feed this to the bottom of the board, underneath the board. And now I can plug that in over here. Zoom in so you can see. Plug the keyboard back in, or should I say the new keyboard back in, and the new keyboard backlight back in. Okay, just like that, and now we can do the screen. Again, make sure that these cables are being routed correctly, and refer to your photos to be sure. Bunch away. That one now. And this one over here. This one's probably for the touchscreen. This little tiny black connector. Get a pry tool or something. You might want to use that to make sure that the connectors are seated in fully. Okay. Screen can be plugged back in now. Should I say the LCD connector, or EDP connector, if you will. That in. And we can do our motherboard screws, and also our fan screws. Come to think of it, I'll do the fan screws first because they're sitting next to me, and I don't want to forget about them. One there. And our other one here. And now it is time for the motherboard screws. So we had 3. We had the one that goes in this little loop here for the grounding of the display. Screw that in just like that. And then we had one that was down here. Again, remember that those ones should have little arrows on them pointing to those screw holes. So that's got those. Next up, we could probably do the battery at this point. We'll have one more connector here. Split up. Everything nice and tidy. And let's not forget about our Wi-Fi connector either. Or antenna connector, actually, which we can now put back onto the wireless card. Usually they'll have a white arrow and a black arrow signifying which one you should use, but this one actually doesn't. So the white, I'm going to assume is number 2 for auxiliary. The black I'll assume is the main. And I can set that back in and push that down. Screw is over here. Put that back in, and we can route the cables now. Make sure that no cables are laying on top of the screw posts, because you can actually screw through them and damage those connectors, so you definitely don't want to do that. Okay. Those in there. Everything looks like it's coming together, so now we'll do the battery. And that just lays down in here like this. Plug that in. Normally I would probably leave the battery connector unplugged, but I'm going to plug it in just so I don't forget to plug it in, which I have done before. And I'll put the battery screws in now. 1, 2, 3. And 4. And the battery should now be back in. So we'll just double check, make sure all our connectors are in, everything's routed correctly, everything like that. And our antennas pop off there. Just like that. Okay, so now make sure we have no screws left over. We'll put the hard drive back in. Should just slide in just like that. And we have those two screws here. And I've also just realized something, that there is a little metal tab here that needs to go underneath the plastic. So keep that in mind. At least it appears it needs to go underneath that plastic. May have been a little bit bent. There it goes. Now that we have that, we can put the bottom on and test the laptop, plug it in, and make sure that everything's okay. So I won't put all the bottom screws in yet because I want to be able to test it. But you can snap the bottom on now at this point, and that can just be pushed down in just like that. And now we want to make sure that the laptop functions and the keyboard works and everything like that. So what I will do is get a charger, plug it in, and we will test everything out. Okay, now we have the laptop back together. We got the charger plugged in, and now we're just going to want to test the main functionality before we put all the rest of the screws in. So main functionality being anything that was on a cable that we unplugged. So the keyboard, the touchpad, the keyboard backlight, the speakers, the USB drives, just double check everything before you put it all back together. And you can see with the new screen, the touchscreen is working fine. I'm able to scroll on the page, and we'll just test all the keys using a keyboard tester. You can see that all the keys are working properly as they should. And just like that. Test them. So that's pretty much it. Now all we're going to have to do is put the bottom screws in and this little cover back in. And the CD-ROM, which should just be the same procedure that we used to take them out at the beginning of the video. So I'll end it here, but this is how to replace the screen and, well, the screen assembly and the Palmrest keyboard assembly on this laptop. Again, this was the Toshiba Satellite P55t-A series, and it's a 15.6-inch laptop. But yeah, so that's how to do the repair on this laptop. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them. But with that being said, I'll end it here, put everything back together and invoice the customer, and that'll be it. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helped you.